Today we need to talk about Jimin, maybe somewhat heartbroken in a new viral video. We also have people saying that James Corden is annoying and what happened there, and then we have a radio show that was cancelled and armies are happy. So Dumplings, it's Dave Desai. Hate it or not, make sure you subscribe with the notification bell on, grab your dumpling and Hey Spilling Mug merch, and let's go. Armies have been rejoicing over this news that a German radio show has gotten his show cancelled. And you might be wondering why armies are happy and what this is about. Well, a little earlier in the year, this German host fell into some controversy. The host of the show threw some, I don't want to say shade because it's not shade, it's straight insults. He called BTS a virus that he hopes will have a vaccine for soon and rid the world. Of course, I think he was aware of what type of backlash he would get from saying that, because if you insult any big singer, very naturally you'll get some backlash from the fans, especially since this insult was prompted after BTS did a Coldplay cover. Not even that BTS insulted his country or anything like that. Like, it just wasn't provoked. What became very interesting to people is that this is not typical of the host, or at least not from what I've seen. I did a quick search to see if there's any public information on any celebrity he has insulted outside of BTS, and haven't really had any luck on finding if there's others. However, I do want to note I have not watched every episode of his show, so there could be. The backlash he continued to get wasn't even about how he didn't like BTS, but it spread into him being racist, because he compared BTS to a virus, which is an obvious racist comment given the landscape of today's world. However, I do want to say that the host did apologize and talk about how the intention of the comments was never to target a specific race, and his comments were wrong. This, of course, came after a severe backlash urging him to step down as a radio host, and what I could have imagined was a string of death threats. I understand that there probably was no real intention of making a racist comment towards BTS, because a virus is something that is stuck in our head, and if you're not a racist person, you don't attribute a race to the word virus. And his comparison was more so saying he wants to rid the world of BTS and their music. However, what an awful comment to make about any artist, let alone a comment to be made about a person, that they need to be erased from Earth. But anywho, recently the news hit that the radio show was actually being cancelled, and immediately armies and fans thought that the show's cancellation was due to the backlash. I would say that it's probably not likely that there was a huge overlap with the radio's show's audience and BTS's audience, meaning those who were big fans and swore off listening to the host were probably very few, and the general audience that the show reached were probably people that didn't care about the controversy. And this is exactly why some people seem very unaffected by being canceled or don't lose money or followers. Is because if their audience is the same as them and thinking the same as the celebrity, then the whole world can literally come down on the celebrity. But they still have their core followers that agree with them, buy their stuff, and keep them going. There was this guy that I knew, we don't really talk anymore, that was outwardly racist towards Chinese people. However, his audience is Trump supporters, so while the whole Chinese community came down on him, they were all people outside of his core followers, and he didn't lose a single follower because his audience thinks the same as him and still supports. And the radio station for this guy I mentioned earlier did come out to say that the show's cancellation actually has nothing to do with the BTS controversy. But the host, I believe, has a new show or something. So I just thought that was an interesting story to talk about. They are always so sweet and kind, and so it's always frustrating to see people attack them. And I guess to a lot of people in the fandom, when this happens, it feels like a personal attack. I believe this is just how everyone felt when the boys had to go to the military. I think it crushed a lot of people when people saw a new video circulating right before some of them had left. Just to give some backstory here, before I talk about the video, Jimin has always been the one that people believe gets the most emotional. He is the one where people say he is crying at the camp, like when Jin left to go, or J-Hope. And there's moments where people believe that Jimin can't say goodbye. Recently, a video went viral where it's Jimin shaving J-Hope's head. Of course, we had no idea who shaved J-Hope's head. I think most of us just assumed that J-Hope went to a barber or something. But it's incredibly cute to see that J-Hope called Jimin for a big moment like hair shaving and wanted Jimin to be a part of it. J-Hope can literally say he got his head shaved by a celebrity, which of course I imagine is not something every new soldier would get to do. Now in this clip that we see Jimin with the shaver and going at J-Hope's hair, we see Jimin pretty upbeat and happy, and likely in that moment thinks it's funny and cute, because of course you don't want to mess up his hair, and it's just fun to sort of look at the hair and then just chop it all off. People did think that after or a little while later, Jimin got upset or maybe was even heartbroken on camera, but just not showing it. I do think he was heartbroken over this idea because shaving your head is just one step closer to goodbye. However, I think all of the members are or were upset about the military in a similar way. I think they were more upset about the idea of leaving their career rather than saying goodbye to each other because they will be seeing each other soon. The idea of then enlisting means that they have to go longer without performing, and they already went a year or two without performing due to COVID. In fact, in BTS's documentary, there was a part where it was Jimin and J-Hope in a car on their way somewhere. It seemed like they had just finished performing or whatever it was, and Jimin asked J-Hope when would be the next time that they would all get the chance to perform. J-Hope thought about it for a little while, as I am sure since he is older, he is trying to provide hope and not be the person to give bad news. But J-Hope said that he wished he knew. And they talked about how in the worst case scenario, they go back to Korea, enlist, and then after the enlistment, they will get an opportunity to perform. And so we just need to remember everything they're doing is to be able to perform again. That's what they love to do. And they're remembering that the whole point of them enlisting is so they can go back to doing it again. I have reacted to a lot of BTS moments over on Patreon, and if you're interested in joining us over there, we have a limited $1 spot that is currently open, so I'd love to see you there. Link in the description. J-Hope and Jimin were also a part of the conversation, as what happened before was something people couldn't help but talk about. During that moment in the car in the documentary, James Corden appeared. I believe before the car took off, James Corden gave Jimin and J-Hope a warm hug and hello. And if you don't remember, James was at the last BTS concert and he showed up as a way to support the boys. He ended up calling Jimin Mochi and himself Papa, and then telling both J-Hope and Jimin, and they were both so amazing and everyone did so well. People were laughing and saying that Jimin clapped back in anger because Jimin was like, "What are you doing here?" And this is true that Jimin or the members might even be unaware that James appeared because these tickets are given out to celebrity guests to appear by the performer's team. So the performers don't always know who each ticket is given to. But Jimin was actually really happy to see James. But this brings people to call out James and say he's annoying or that they hate him. And then people go as far as to say that Jimin probably feels the same way and actually hates James as well. And I feel the need to defend James here because he never did anything wrong to begin with. The issue everyone was mad about was when James said that the 15-year-olds in the fandom were going wild at BTS. He never said the entire fandom was 15, but just talking about those who are. And then he said that BTS was unusual to perform at the UN, which they are. Typically singers don't perform there, and then a K-pop act performs. That is unusual. But it was the fault of the fandom to take the word unusual as a negative rather than either a neutral or positive. In this case, neutral. People were saying things like every time James calls himself Papa, it angers them or it takes 10 years off their life. To this I say, if you're a miserable person that gets upset at something like this, then life might not be worth living for you because you'll be angry and upset your entire life. And there's so many other things worth getting more upset about. There's actual people who have used BTS and been rude to them. I won't name them, but those people are never invited to see BTS at a concert or anything like that. I just want that to sink in, that the boys don't hate James. Is James their best friend? Probably not, but it doesn't mean that they hate him. People like to say that you either have a best friend or an enemy, and it's like people are just acquaintances and friendly with each other, and that is the extent of the relationship, and that's okay. It's fine and healthy to have those relationships too. I don't think James ever insulted BTS, and I don't think Jimin or any BTS member has ever been upset about those things. Let me know what you think. Make sure you check out Patreon for more videos, link down below. Thanks, just a little bit of comment right here. Love you, bye.